Hello devs, welcome back to my YouTube channel FEStack. First of all, I would like to thanks to my first 100 plus subscriber who shown their interest in the content which I have created so far. So today in this video, I'm going to show you how you can implement Google Pay button in your Vue.js app. In my last two videos, I have shown you the implementation of Google Pay button in Angular and React app. So you can check those videos under videos tab of this YouTube channel. So stay tuned for more action. Welcome back guys. So to implement a Google Pay in Vue.js, our demo app will look like this. Okay, and as soon as I click on this buy with Google Pay, it will ask me to enter my Google credential to log in. And as soon as I enter my password here, this Google Pay API has been called, and then it will ask me to select my payment method, which is MasterCard right now because I already added here earlier. And if you want to change it, you can change it here. You just click on this add credit card, credit or debit card, and then you can choose whatever you want. As of now, I'm not going to change it because I have already added, so I'll be using the existing one which I have already added. And then this is the final amount which I'm going to pay with this Google Pay method. And as soon as I click on this pay button, once the payment is success, the Google Pay API returns me this information. And in this information, as you see that in this payment method data, which is very important, having a description which is saying that the payment is been done with the MasterCard ending with 8572. And then in the info property, it is showing that the card detail and then the card network, which is a MasterCard right now. And the important part is this tokenization data. Once the payment is success, Google Pay API returns the token string, and this token string you can store in your database against this payment or against this order. Okay, and then the last part, the last property of this object is type, which is a card, because it's a payment, card payment. Okay, so as you see that this is a very good information, and which Google Pay API return after your payment is success, right? And you can use this information in the UI as well. You can show some good header here or footer saying that the payment against this order number has been success, and with this card number, or whatever you want. It depends on you or your requirement. So without further delay, let's start with the coding part. So to start with the coding part, I'm going to use a code sandbox basically. Code Sandbox is an online editing tool which generates different kind of boilerplate codes for various JS framework like React or simple JavaScript or Vue or Angular. Okay, so right now I'm going to use Vue, and I'm not going to click on this because I have already opened here. And once I click, once I click on that this particular link, it will open me this one. So the very first thing we want to do is, now we will create another component which will be Google Pay dot view. So once I click on this, okay, and I will simply say view, and it gives me this boilerplate of the code, and which will be developing right now. The first thing we wanted to do is that we will remove this part of the code, as we don't need this part. Okay, so I remove this part. Okay, and I go to this app view, and here in this I change the string to my own string, which is Google 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 Pay View Demo app. Okay, and the next thing that we wanted to do is that we will call that component here, which is Google Pay. Okay, and we also want to import that component here, Google Play from components Google Pay. Okay, and we will simply add that component here, which is Google Pay. Okay, and now I come back to this, and we will start implementing we will start writing our code for this component. First, let's start with the script part, basically our logic or our functionality part. So the very first thing we wanted to declare in this script tag will be our export default, basically, which is a Vue.js default for any component, and then we will add a Google Pay name of our component. After this, we will add a property called props, which will be empty as of now, and then the other property called data, and which will be a function which will return some variable. So here first we are adding is amount, which will be 10 $10 or €10. It depends on the currency. We will add later on, and then we will be using this existing method required property, and this is required when we want to check whether I have my existing payment selected or not, existing payment method selected or not. Okay, so right now I'm passing this as a true, and then I'll add a property called button color. I'm keeping it as a default, but you can choose it whether which one you want to add it, because there is a lot of option mentioned in the documentation of this Google Pay API. And the button type will be a buy, and then a payment request data will be an object, and in this we will define API 2 version 2, basically. Sorry. API version 2, which will be for testing purpose, and then API version minor will be 0, and then we will add this allowed payment method, which will be an array, and then in this array we will define our first object, which will be a payment allowed payment method, which will be a type card, and then we will having a parameter for this type of payment, and then in this we saying that allow method is right now only a pan only and crypto 3 days. So if my payment method is card, I'll be using a pan only, and if it is other than card, then it will be a cryptogram 3ds. And the second property for this will be a allowed card network, which will be, right now I'm entering MasterCard, Visa. You can add mm, um, another method which will be available. You have to check in the Google Pay API documentation. Okay, and then I'll add this property called a tokenization specification. This information required when this payment is been success, and then Google return the token for the successful payment, and this information required there. So as you see that we had a type which is a payment gateway, and then for this payment gateway we need a parameters which is gateway. I mean, you have to mention your payment gateway, whatever you are selecting, and then the gateway merchant ID here. Okay, and then beneath you have to add this merchant info, and this merchant info object is having a property called merchant ID. When you have a merchant ID, then you can find the information there. So it is a string, and then you have to define a merchant name, which is right now a demo merchant, because I don't have it right now. But whenever you select the merchant, you select the merchant method or merchant for your payment gateway, you find this information there, and then you can simply take it from there and enter it here. And then we have to define methods for this Google Pay button. And in this method, first one is onload payment data. And this onload payment data is basically it is invoked actually when a user is successfully nominated the payment detail. Okay, and here I'm consoling load payment data, and it returns an event object, and then in that we are capturing the detail property. Okay, and then we will having another callback on error, and this when some error happen, then we will be catching in this callback. Okay, and then other method will be on payment data authorization method, and in this basically it invokes when user chooses a payment method. Okay, and this callback should be used to validate whether or not the payment method can be used to complete a payment, sorry. This would be typically used to perform a pre-authorization to ensure that the card is valid and has a sufficient fund. Okay, so here I'm consoling payment. I'm consoling the result of this callback returned by Google Pay API, and then once is a success, then I'm returning transaction state success. So what does it mean? That once this transaction state is a success, you can store it in your database, and the information you are getting after the payment is success, you can store it in your database, and that's it. Now this part is completed, and let's go to the template part, and to add our Google Pay button here. Okay, so let's start to write some HTML for our component. So the first thing I want to use it div example class. Okay, and then in this I have another div called the class with the demo. We will add this CSS later on under this style tag. Okay, so in this we will be using this Google Pay button element, and then in this we have some configuration that needs to be here. The first one will be environment, and which will be a test. it can be a production once you are going to production. And then the second one we want to bind is the button type, which will be a button type we declared under here. So the button type is by. Okay. And the second thing we wanted to not second the third one we wanted to bind is that the button color, which will be a button color, and the same thing, the variable define here, the button color, which will be our default right now. And then after that we will be adding binding existing payment method required. Okay, and which will be a existing payment method required property which we have declared here. Okay, and then after this we will be binding a payment request object, and which will be payment request.prop. And in this we will define our API version, will be a payment, which will be a payment request.api version. If you see here, we have this payment request object here, and then we have to define our API version minor property, which will be payment request.api version minor, and then allowed payment method, which will be allowed payment methods, and then the merchant info basically, and which is payment request.merchant info, all coming from here. This is our payment methods, and this is our merchant info. This is all configuration needed if we want to Google Pay work properly. So this transaction info will be having a total transaction, total price of the status will be a final, and then this total price label, which will be a total, and then total price, which will be an amount, and then the currency code will be using a USD, and then the country code we are going to use is US. And then in this callback intent, if we want to use some callback method for example payment authorization thing, which we declared here down on payment data authorized, we have to use this callback intents, and then in this we have to declare this meta tag which is saying that payment underscore authorization, and then we will be catching up the DOM event on this beyond load payment data. So once this event trigger will be catching by that event by this method, and then we will be also capturing this on error method, and we will be binding this property called on payment authorized prop, and then in this we will be calling this on payment data authorized method, and then we will close this one. As you see that I have added this Google Pay button element here, and with the configuration which requires to run this Google Pay button. Okay, and then after this we have to include the package of Google Pay button for the Vue.js. By the way, I'm going to use this package for this demo. So Google Pay web component button, Google Pay slash button element. So let's copy this. Oops. So let's copy this and come back to here, and then go to the add dependency and paste it here, and then enter. So as you see, notice that it is adding this package to our application, and if I go to the package JSON, and you will notice that this Google Pay button element has been added here. Perfect. So come here, and then we have to import this in our under the script tag, and here we say import at Google pay button element, and then semicolon. And now you see that I have this button, Google buy with the Google Pay. And then when I click on this button, again I have to enter my Google credential. Let me enter my password here. And as you see that my payment method was already added, and it is showing my credit card detail here. If I wanted to add a new one, I can add it now or later. And it is saying that I have to pay $10 with this order, and using this Google Pay method. So as soon as I click on this pay, so now you can see that the payment authorization console returning me this information, which is same as load payment data is pretty much same information. And you see that this payment method data is returning me this description of my MasterCard number and this token. And as I told you earlier that this token can be stored in your database. I mean, once you get this information, you can, in this on payment authorized method, you can, or you can in this callback, you get this information, and you can, you can have another call to your database and to send this information to your database. So, okay, so as you see that this is not that much difficult to implement this kind of implementation, and it will be fun for you if you do it your own. And one more thing that as I show you in this documentation, the first thing for this package is that in this properties we have this button color, we have default black white, and then we have a button size mode, basically a static fill, and then there is the information about this, and then button type, then the environment. This is the property, and this is the payment request, payment data request. Okay, as it is existing payment method required, and then there are various callbacks available right now. The first one is on cancel. When you cancel the pop-up, you can capture this. You can capture that. I mean, you can capture that event, and then this on error, and then this we saw this in the demo on payment authorized, and then this is on payment changed as well. So once you change the information about your payment data, it triggers this callback, and this callback can be used dynamically update the transaction info when the payment detail, shipping address, or shipping option changes. Very useful. And then there is another callback on ready to pay change. This involves when user is ready to pay the state change. This callback can be used change the application behavior based on whether or not the user is ready to pay. So there are a lot of options, and this last one is on log payment data. Okay, and if you want to read further about the Google Pay API, you can you can click on any of this link. For example, if you click on this, it will take you the original API of the Google Pay, and where everything is explained, why, how. Okay, and this documentation is quite useful for the developers to to enhance further any functionality you want. Okay, so I think for this session is okay. I didn't edit the CSS part here. If you want to edit, you can edit. Let me grab the CSS which I have wrote before for this demo actually, under the style tag, and here we should have scoped. So this directive saying that this particular style is only for this component. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope you will like it, and if you like it, then please don't forget to share and subscribe my YouTube channel. And do let me know your opinion, suggestions, or your feedback. I would love to read about that. And I will capture this demo code and put it on my GitHub repo. You can simply take it from there. The link of that GitHub repository will be the description of this video. So, okay, stay tuned until next video. Bye bye and have a nice day.